Hello, hello. We are going to talk about the week of November 6th. Can you freaking believe it? You might like this chart. This time of year, it's always really interesting because the planets start to shift from Scorpio into Saggy. So we start getting a lot of fire energy going, reactivated again, spirituality and religion and talking to God, right? And so some even say November going into December, it's that time when it's almost as though the angelic realm or something gets closer to us, right? Like we can feel closer to it, or we can sense even possibly these must be divine downloads. Like this isn't mine. Where the hell is this coming from, right? And so look at this chart, right? I'm just going to outline some stuff here real quick. Big mystic rectangle in here that goes like this. But then there's another one. Like there's multiple mystic rectangles in this chart. This one also plays off of this one. You see it? Do you see it on your end? You know, your little bitty devices laying in your bed, sitting in the chair. Look at that. You see that? And then there's another one. This time of year, there's always kind of like this setup. I'm sorry, that one I did a little cheesy. That line got bad. Do you see that? Do you see? Isn't this interesting energy? But then there's also a lot of trines in here. I'm going to color the trines in green, but the trine that I'm coloring in green, it's a little sloppy. You get the gist of it, right? You see it. Trine energy right on top of this amazing geometry. So now we got to go down to the small itty bitty scale, look at the signs and the degrees and see where's this at? What kind of energy this is, what signs it's happening in. But, before we even go there, let's just explain that first off, if I were to pull this trine out of the picture, right? We know that when a trine is involved in something, it creates the ease, right? And so we know that the trine has those 3 points. What does a trine mean? In essence, a trine means something easily happened, like it just landed in your lap. You didn't have to do very much for it to occur. Okay, so is this good? Is this bad? Like what could this be? Well, it really does depend on where it happens in your chart and what else is going on in your life. But typically it's something that you won't have to work very hard at. It will just kind of land in your lap. And so if we use our imagination, that could be wonderful or it could be not so wonderful. Like something could just happen so easily and it was like, oh my God, how did that happen? I didn't even do anything and it just happened, right? So it goes both ways. It goes both ways. Now, on top of that trine, where we have a great ease that comes through, is we're going to have this amazing, beautiful geometry. Multiple mystic rectangles. And when you have so many mystic rectangles like this, you end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a hexagon. Am I right? Is that a hexagon? Is that from one point, right? So we'll just pick up this point right here. Let me get my arrow in here. So from this point right here, right? Because there's 6 points basically. And it's 60 degrees between each point. Yeah. Right? Yep. 60 degrees this way. I know that this mystic rectangle point is 60 degrees. This one is 60 degrees. This one is 60 degrees. 2 points that are identical, 2 sides that are identical here in distance. And these are identical in distance. You see that? It might just be the way I drew them out. Yeah, it is the way that I drew them out. It was and it's also the chart, but yeah, it is 60 degrees. I started questioning and doubting myself. It's 60 degrees all the way around. So from one point to from number 9, right? Go to number 7 over here, 60 degrees. Go over here near the 5th house, 60 degrees. Go by the 3rd house, 60 degrees. Go by the 1st house, 60 degrees. Go back up here by the 11th house, cusp line, 60 degrees all the way around. And so 60 degrees is also an ease. So it's an amazing time where we've got this trine energy on top of multiple mystic rectangles that make what we call like the King's Solomon star type thing, or we'll just leave it at that. And so it's a time where powerful things can happen. It's quite an auspicious time. So if you've been working towards something, right? Because it's 60 degrees away from each other, it's Venus in Virgo. You see that? Let me get there. We got Venus in Virgo at one point at a critical degree, 28, 29. Then the next point over 60 degrees away, because we're saying that this is at 29 degrees. So it's Mercury. You see Mercury over there at 25, right? Yep. So we're saying Mercury, even though it's not technically drawn that way because the chart is so big, because there's so much in Scorpio, there's a lot there. It couldn't squish it all in for the Mercury to sit right here. You understand that? There's not enough space because of the symbols that they had to draw in. That's just how it is, which is why it's so important to pay attention to the degrees. And then what do we have? We got Pluto at 28 degrees. So you've got Venus and Pluto trining this week, this day actually. And so technically this will be, Sunday, Monday, right? Like November 5th. And then you've got Neptune over here at 25. You see? Pluto and Capricorn, then you go Neptune to 25. And you may have something in your chart where you got something closer to like 27, 28, 29 in Pisces. It's a very good possibility. And then we go over to Taurus. And of course, we've got the fixed star of Algo. And we also have Sedna at 0 degrees in Gemini retrograding. And Sedna is going to go backwards into Taurus, right? So this is right around that 28, 29 mark, right? And then we go small again. And we got the sign of Cancer. On this particular chart, the ascendant is at 27 degrees. So do you have something at 27, 25, 26, 27 in the sign of Cancer? That would create like this mystic rectangle. And so for this chart, just so that we're clear, because of this chart's ascendant and descendant, right, we have this really interesting geometrical configuration on the screen. Now, because Pluto is definitely here, regardless of the chart, Pluto by degree is here. The question is, what do you have opposite of Pluto, meaning Pluto in Cappy? So that's what you have in Cancer at 27, 28, 29 degrees. Do you have anything in the sign of Cancer in your chart? You see that? Now, if I were to go and look at more points or midpoints or stuff like that, there might be, you truly may have something right there at that high degree. So for many of you, there can be a very, 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 very auspicious time where either something you're either working towards, something you want to achieve. Think of all the signs here. Think of Venus and Virgo, so work and projects, right? Venus and Virgo, work and projects, right? Practical love, tangible love. It's like it makes sense. It's going to work. I know this can happen. And then we think of Scorpio, Mercury, right? Mercury. This is communications about things that are people communicating about things that are intense, communicating about possibly people where we're very much bonded, maybe talking about the wounds, but also communicating in a deep way, like talking about stuff that matters, things that are very important to us. This is deeply bonded energy. It's Scorpio. And then we move over to the Pluto thing, right? So to me, right off the bat, you're going to have the strong Venus trining Pluto. You see that? That was part of that big mystic rectangle down the center there. You see it right here? That line of the Venus energy trining Pluto. That was part of that mystic rectangle. Yeah, so the Venus and Pluto are part of the powerful mystic rectangle. And they're part of it with Neptune. So there's a little bit of dreaminess involved, possibly. It's Neptune, a little bit of fantasy involved, possibly. But there's no mistake that Venus and Pluto represent possibly the past, intense love from the past, possibly other realities, other lifetimes. I know there's a lot of people who have ended relationships and met new people and are just like kind of either connecting with what they would consider to be their tribe, and even people where they're like, wow, I want to spend forever with you, right? And there's that deep resonating vibration between you, right? Where we feel very close, where it goes beyond just the physical attraction. There's something on a very deep level, soulful energy, Pluto, very much soulful energy. But what's beautiful is because Venus is involved, it adds a practicality to it, right? Remember, Venus is really smart in Virgo. So for some of you, just checking this out real quickly in your chart, those degrees and locations, and where does this all line up for you, and looking for the 25, we'll say 25 to 29 degrees of Virgo, of Scorpio, of Capricorn, of Pisces, of Taurus, and of Cancer. Right. So what do they all have in common? If you go around the chart, they all sextile. They're all 60 degrees away from each other. And it's powerful. It's an ease, and it's something, I call it auspicious and magical, but it's deep and intense because we're still in Scorpio season. The sun is at 14 degrees in Scorpio here, right? Full throttle Scorpio season. And look, even the part of fortune, just for the part of time of the day that this chart is drawn up, because part of fortune moves really fast. But what's interesting here is Pallas Athena. She's in Libra. She's in Libra. And she's exactly conjunct the South Node, because the South Node is about releases and letting go. There could be, remember Pallas Athena, the thinker, the strategizer? It's relationship energy because it's Libran energy. So it is more about being diplomatic. It is more about being fair and equal, right? It's about how can we move forward and at the same time maybe have to release a little bit of control, because that's Libra energy. It's Venus ruled. So on a high level, it tends to really want this super ideal, almost fantasy about relationships, about partnerships, and it can be business partnerships. So there might be a little bit of something that's being let go. Could this be a relationship literally? Sure, could be. And Pallas Athena is the strategist here. So it's almost as though there's a release when these two are coming together. This is the thinker. This is the general, Pallas Athena. She's, she can think outside of the box. She can think of different ways to make things happen. She may consider something or someone to partner up with that she never considered before, or vice versa. It's time to release and let go something or someone she never considered before. And again, it can be about her very idealistic perceptions, even because it's an air sign. Libra is air. So there's talking involved with air. There's thinking involved with air, right? And the opposite of that, we go down to Aries. And look, still the node is at 24 still. And we've got Eris right there. So these two, Eris has been conjunct the North Node, my future, where I'm headed. And self is a big deal. Self is a big deal. And so we're thinking about that. And we're also considering that, lo and behold, freaking White Moon Lilith is here. And Chiron on the other side. Now, this is, I think, important because of the fact that Chiron is retrograding and it's moving away from Eris. It's not as close. So we might be able to get some conversation going. So, when people are angry, you need to have a cool off time. And when Chiron and Eris were close, it was just too close, 19 degrees, too close to the fiery energy, because this is very close to the North Node. So it's very fired up, right? But as it's pulling away, it might suppress a little bit. It might step back. It might cool down a little bit, even though we've got the watery fight energy of Scorpio in full throttle. And Scorpio is that I'm here to I will fight for what's important to me. Scorpio energy, for sure. if I already didn't do a video or if you haven't seen it, is Saturn is direct. You see this? Look at this. Saturn standing still, going direct. This is all about the restrictions are no longer here. They're not as firm or as binding as they were before. Things loosen up a little bit, right? The rules and the regulations, things don't feel as constrictive or tight. Our burdens aren't as heavy. And it was Pisces. So Pisces actually, I think, kind of benefited from having a little bit of the structure and the rules in there, because that's Pisces. It needs a little structure, right? So fantasy, sci-fi, Pisces, music and sound, movies, moving pictures, public figures, like, oh my God, what's going to, anyway, we could talk all day about that. But Saturn going direct now. It's going very slow, but it is going direct. And so for some of you, this can represent work and possibly, oh my God, did I finally get the call? Am I going to a job? Like, is it going to work out? Is it coming through? Because if the restrictions release, if they lessen a little bit, that may benefit work. Saturn is building for the long term. It is the rules. It is somebody in charge. These can be political figures. These can be Hollywood. Maybe the writer's strike or the actor's strike is over by now. That's a possibility, even if it's not already over. These are just some examples. All right. Some examples of things that are going to be. Black Moon Lilith is in Virgo here. And it's interesting to make sure that we remember it's conjunct Regulus. And so remember, Regulus is really powerful. Someone who thinks they're the authority figure or they're the boss, they're the king of the jungle type of thing. It's got a military aspect to it, but now it's in Virgo. So it's going to really be talking about the tangible and the practical, the daily routines, the work, the projects, the tasks, the details, the minutia, healthcare, cleanliness, pets, right? Healthcare workers, nursing, right? Holistic energy, the earth, doing things that are good for the earth, good for my body, food and digestion, Virgo energy. And then Juno at 7 degrees, 8 degrees in Virgo as well. So this can be beneficial as this Juno is trining Jupiter, partnership energy, Earth trining Earth, Jupiter and Juno working together, finances, but they're realistic because they're both in Earth. So something can occur that is actually practical and tangible and will move forward with it. It's a good plan because details are involved. Juno in Virgo is like the accountant, right? An accountant comes along, someone who actually is looking at the nitty gritty, saying, hey, this is a little bit more realistic. It's not about the flashy show. It's not about, the screen and the stage and the spotlight. It's down to earth energy. It's down to earth energy. Thing for the beginning of October, it's got this magical vibration to it. It truly does because of the geometry. Very magical, very mystical. And find out where these objects line up in your chart and what house numbers they're in, because that tells you where these things occur in your life. Thank you for watching. If you're still here, I appreciate your time. Take care.